Welcome back to the Boardroom Breakdown. Today, we are cutting straight through the hype of the AI arms race. We're going to deliver a critical briefing on a really big strategic shift, the move away from just massive models to smaller, specialized, high-impact ones. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Our goal here is simple, to give you a much sharper framework for your organization's AI strategy. You can't open a browser without seeing headlines about some new, massive AI model. It creates this powerful narrative, right? And it all boils down to one central strategic question that every leader has to ask. In this race for AI supremacy, is bigger really always better? Now, the prevailing wisdom, the thinking that's driving billions in investment, it screams yes. But we're here to tell you that this is a really dangerous oversimplification. Because relying only on these huge general-purpose models, it can actually become a major strategic liability. So, over the next few minutes, here's what we'll cover. We're going to dismantle this AI size myth. We'll define what a small language model, or SLM, actually is, and we'll unpack the strategic limits of only going big. Then we'll lay out 3 specific moves you can make to win, and we'll wrap it all up with a blueprint for building a truly modern AI portfolio. All right, first up, let's tackle the AI size myth. We need to understand why just following the herd here is, frankly, a losing strategy. The headlines. You know them, they're all about the titans. GPT-4o, Gemini, the list goes on. This has created a kind of arms race mentality, where the default assumption is that the only way to win is to pour money into these giant general-purpose models. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. As these incredibly powerful LLMs become available to everyone through a simple API call, they're becoming commodities. Think about it. If you and your biggest competitor are using the exact same public model, where's your edge? Where's the competitive advantage? And that question brings us right to the agile alternative. So when we say going small, what do we actually mean? What is an SLM? An SLM, or a small language model, is basically a lightweight model. We're talking anywhere from a few million up to maybe 10 billion parameters. Now, to put that in perspective, the large models can have hundreds of billions, even trillions of parameters. The key difference here is its purpose. An SLM is designed to do specific tasks with incredible efficiency. This chart really lays out the strategic trade-offs perfectly. You've got LLMs on one side. They're the general-purpose jacks of all trades, but they're expensive, they're slow to deploy, and they're a bigger security risk because of that whole black box problem. On the other side, you have SLMs. Think of them as hyper-focused experts. They are way cheaper, much faster to get to market, and they give you much tighter control over your data and security, which, as you know, is absolutely critical in any regulated industry. And that contrast really exposes the hidden stakes of going all in on an LLM-only approach. These are the risks that really need to be on every single executive's radar. So an LLM-only strategy comes with 4 huge risks. First, bloated costs. The compute and energy bills are just enormous, and you often get diminishing returns. Second, data and security vulnerabilities. When you're training on these vast, uncontrolled data sets, you're raising the risk of exposing the proprietary information. Third, the black box problem. The fact that you can't really explain how these massive models get to an answer makes auditing and compliance a total nightmare. And finally, the point we just touched on, commoditization. Using the same public tools as everyone else is not a strategy for winning. Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? This brings us to the real heart of our briefing today. 3 specific moves you can make to leverage SLMs and build a truly defensible long-term advantage. We're calling them the precision play, the hybrid play, and the compliance play. And what's cool is that each one directly attacks a key weakness of that LLM-only approach and helps you build a real competitive moat. First up, the precision play. This is all about building your moat. Instead of using a generalist model, you train a smaller SLM on your unique, high-quality proprietary data. This is where the whole game changes. It shifts from being about who has the biggest budget for compute power to who has the sharpest focus and the best intellectual property locked away in their data. You end up creating a solution that your competitors literally cannot just go out and buy.
And if you need proof that precision beats raw size, just look at this number. Microsoft created this tiny little model called Phi-1, only 1.3 billion parameters, but they trained it on textbook quality data. And the result? It absolutely crushed models over 100 times its size, like the 175 billion parameter GPT 3.5 on key coding benchmarks. It just proves that the quality of your data is a way more powerful lever than raw scale.
All right, the second move is the hybrid play. Now, this isn't about choosing SLMs instead of LLMs. No, not at all. It's about using them to make each other smarter. The best way to think about it is that the SLM acts as this domain-specific expert assistant, feeding crucial context to the big, generalist LLM. So there's this framework from academic research called BLADE that shows exactly how this works. Here's the breakdown. First, a small model gets trained on your internal expert data, say a decade's worth of complex legal contracts. Then, when a user asks a complex question, that small expert model first generates these super relevant, context-rich insights from your private data. Then, and only then, it hands those insights off to a general LLM, which uses that expert context to put together a final answer that is just worlds better and far more accurate. And the final move, the compliance play. Now, for anyone in finance, healthcare, or any other regulated industry, this is a total game changer. SLMs, because they're trained on smaller, more controlled data sets, give you way more control, transparency, and auditability. You can actually trace their decision-making process, which is absolutely essential for meeting compliance requirements, where a black box LLM is just a non-starter. Now, these three plays, they're not just isolated tactics. They're the core pieces of a much bigger strategic shift. It's about moving from a monolithic view of AI to building a modern, diversified AI portfolio. This right here is the key takeaway for your next strategy session. The future of enterprise AI is not a single giant model that does everything. It is a diversified portfolio of models, with each one picked for a very specific job. So what does that portfolio look like? Well, it's pretty simple. You use large language models for broad, general knowledge tasks. You deploy small, proprietary models for the high-accuracy, domain-specific work that actually builds your competitive advantage. And then you combine them into hybrid models to solve those really tricky problems that need both breadth and depth. See, this approach, balancing broad capability with focused expertise, is how you stop just using AI and start really weaponizing it for a competitive advantage. It moves the focus away from the size of the model and onto the sophistication of your strategy. So the question I want you to take back to your team is this: what's in your organization's AI portfolio?